Jack here at JBF Music and Guitar Lessons. In this quick guitar tricks, we're looking at my top 10 muting techniques. So I'll start off with the more kind of usable, applicable ones, and then we'll go into some slightly more novelty, but still usable techniques. There are bound to be tricks that I've forgotten about and ones that I just simply don't know about yet. So if you're aware of any other secret muting techniques, let us know in the comments. Don't hold out, guys. But yeah, the first one I'm going to look at here is Vi's finger. Alright, there I used a lick from the Steve Vai song The Crying Machine to showcase this trick. In a nutshell, use your first finger as a mute by resting it lightly across the strings. This means if you do a lot of slides or slide over wide intervals on one string, the other strings aren't going to ring out by mistake. You might have noticed I also use this for the bends in that demo as well. I used to do this more often than I do now because I like the strength you get from reinforcing a bend with the first finger. But if I'm playing on a guitar with particularly low action, I'll often revert to this first finger muting to help clean things up. So for a quick breakdown of this lick, and if you're not interested in that, just use the timestamps to jump ahead. We're bending a tone on the 14th fret, return to pitch, bending a tone again, then hit it while it's still bent, then return back to pitch. 12th fret, 14th, then slide up to the 16th fret, back down to the 14th. Now here you don't really want to hear that 16th fret, you just want that sort of pew kind of laser gun kind of sound. For more Visms, check out that lesson with the card up there. But then we have the same 14th fret bending idea, but down a tone on the 12th fret. Pull up to the 11th fret, 12th, pull off to the 11th again. Then we go down to the 9th fret. Oh, a bit of a bonus trick here. Vi does this a lot, so we keep the note sustained, but then quickly switch fingers on it. So sustaining the note, but using a different finger. In this example, I'm going from the first finger to the second finger, so I can use my first finger for this muting trick. What we do here is we slide up to the 11th fret, down to the 7th. So that's all kind of one move. You hit it here and slides, just playing it once. And then we do a similar thing, sliding up to the 9th fret, then down to the 4th. And with lots of gain or kind of low action, this is where this trick comes in really useful, well for myself anyway. Now if you have enough gain compression or a cranked amp, provided you hit the string with enough force, the background string noise often gets naturally compressed out of the end waveform until you lift your finger up. If you're opting for a lighter touch, this kind of muting technique really can make a huge difference. Next up, we've got a technique using the left hand's thumb, which I'm calling Frusciante's thumb. Now obviously there are a lot more guitarists that have used this technique other than just him, but at least it's a good point of reference. So here you take your left hand's thumb and you pop it over the back of the neck, like so. And rather than fretting anything, we're using it to choke out the string. It's often good to combine this with the first or even second finger, which will mute the higher strings. A pretty common technique in funk, disco and R&B as a muting method. I tend to use this more on narrow-necked guitars like Strats and Les Pauls. On a wider-necked one like this or a different Ibanez, I'd quite often use Vi's first finger trick, but apply it to funk patterns. So you can still mute things out with this finger and then use that kind of thing. Add in a little bit of light pan muting here, and you're pretty much good to go. You can also chop and change between this and the Vi finger technique in the same song, just like I did in my Learn Riff Now video for the Red Hot Chili Peppers Can't Stop. Next up we've got Guthrie Govan's fingers, and this is not the only appearance this particular virtuoso will be making on this top 10 muting list. I use this one so much. You take these fingers and you rest them on the strings that aren't being used. It's super handy for bends, so say I was bending the G string, I can pop these fingers on the B and E strings respectively. This is a surefire way to make certain you won't hear a single chirp from either of them. If you want some Guthrie Govan licks to try this out on, check out these tasty guitar lines with the card up there. If you rest your pick, for example, here it would be on the D string, your thumb kind of resting lightly on the A and the E strings, you're going to mute those strings out as well, so the only string you can hear is it's going to be that G. Aside from regular muting, this is also really great for getting that nice controlled, tame and pitched feedback. Switching things up now and jumping onto the left hand, specifically the fingertips. Now I think I picked this up from a Shawn Lane instructional video, but I might be mistaken, so if you know of any guitarists who specifically use this trick, let us know. Okay, but we've already looked at using the first finger as a mute, so how is this any different? Well, you can use the tip of your finger and rest it lightly on a lower string. So here I'm going to fret a note on the A string, and if I've done this right, I should be resting my finger just enough against the E string that it is in fact muted. This is a pretty tough technique to master intuitively well, for me it is anyway, and it really requires a lot of slow playing and probably a bit of a technique overhaul to work it into a robust and reliable muting method. It's still worth knowing about. Try using it from time to time and see if it seeps into your playing. On to the real meat and veg stuff now. We're looking at standard left hand muting technique. Alright, so we looked at the funk bass left hand first finger muting, and this is very similar. The only difference here is all your fingers are fair game simultaneously. Essentially, you want your left hand to take care of any string which is higher in pitch, so closer to the floor, of the one you're currently playing. So here, fretting a note on the D string, it's 12th fret. My left hand should be dampening the G, B and E strings. This means I can rake through the notes, or simply play this note. I don't have to worry about any excess noise. All you get is this kind of percussive chirp or kind of scrape if you want to think of it that way. A floating hand where only the finger connects will result in way more excess noise and slop than using the underside of your fingers to dampen unwanted noise, which you can really hear when playing a note and playing it staccato. So that's just all the excess string noise ringing out because I'm muting this note. And if I bring these fingers on and mute that note, much cleaner. And since we've done the left, let's balance things out and do the right as well. So I don't want to call this right hand palm muting because it's not necessarily palm muting, but it is muting with your palm. What really helped me was learning some Jeff Beck songs using fingerstyle. That really kind of taught me how to use my palm to mute the strings a bit more efficiently. On the flip side to that last tip, your palm can rest lightly on the lower strings. Provided the string is below the note you're playing, it will prevent them from vibrating into a sloppy fit of rage. So if you're fretting the G string, my palm should be taking care of the E, A and D by just resting lightly on, so I'm probably using kind of this bit. My palm's obviously rotated forward, so maybe more in there. And my left hand should be taking care of the B and the E strings. So if we do the staccato trick again, play this note and mute it, and we don't get any background noise. That's the best way to test how effective your muting technique is. If you take anything away from this video, combining these two standard muting techniques, for lack of a better term, is hugely beneficial to keeping a tight sound. And if you're still watching and enjoying the content, let me know with a comment, like and subscribe. You gotta feed that algorithm somehow. And for a flashier right hand muting trick, check out this video with the card up there. Alright, all the normal stuff's more or less out the way now, and we're into novelty corner. Sometimes the best corner to be in, sometimes the worst. So I've called this one Andy James's hairband. Now again, this is a trick I actually picked up from Guthrie Govan first off, but you know, let's make the list a little bit more diverse. Full disclosure, I've never had too much luck with this one. By his own account, Andy James sees this as maybe more of a psychological safety net than a failsafe as some sort of all-encompassing hench behemoth muting hack. If you guys have found any particular size or brand of scrunchie or hair bobble that works consistently, let us all know. But basically you get a hairband, bobble, scrunchie, whatever you want to call them, and you slide it over the top of the neck. Easier said than done in some cases, navigating the machine heads most gracefully there. As you probably noticed, this one's a bit loose, so I'll have to put a little knot in it. The way I tend to do this, there are better ways, but this is just what I'll do in a pinch. So you pull it out, you twist it once to get a loop, then this new loop you've just created here, you take a bit of the hairband and just kind of push it through. Pull that through, and you can use this to tighten it up a little bit. So if you pull this, it'll make it a little bit tighter against the strings. But yeah, if you're tapping both hands, this can help clean things up a little bit. Oh, also, it's good for recording if you're in a pinch and need to clean things up, particularly if you've got like a time barrier where you've got to get a solo in a limited amount of time. Bonus tip, you can do a Ron thal and you can use it to catch harmonics. So you just move it to where you're getting a harmonic. Hopefully I'll get one on the D string here. So we could pull up to it. this next one might seem like a bit of a novelty or kind of gimmicky thing, it can be really useful for recording, particularly if you're short on time and really need to get something nailed in the pocket. So I'm calling this one Marty's finger, or also Marty's tape. So often when he's recording, Marty Friedman will either get someone to stand next to him and finger his guitar, resting their first finger over the strings like so. If failing that, he'll get a bit of gaffer tape and either just put it over the strings and kind of tape it around to the fretboard, or if you want to be really efficient, you can put it under. So the easiest way to do this is generally to fold it over, so you've got kind of a corner like this, which is non-sticky. You'll generally have a bit more lower action kind of under the pickups, so slide it under there with this bit. Hopefully I can get this through here. Yep. So pull that up, and basically wherever the lowest fret you're using in the solo or whatever you're playing is, try and get it around there. My action's getting a bit too low here. I'm struggling a bit. So say the 12th fret or this was the lowest I was using, I might want to tape this here. So push the strings down onto the tape, pull the tape over the strings, and those should be pretty well muted at this point. So again, I can kind of stop note staccato, not have to use any muting technique at all, and that's taking care of it. Once more, this isn't particularly practical for everyday playing, but you know, if you're recording, again, you're limited on time, or there's a run you just can't quite get, this is a lazy man solution, but still a good one. This isn't the easiest thing to get off, and it'll leave a kind of sticky residue on your strings for a little bit, so just be careful before you go about sticking gaffer tape all over your guitar for no good reason. And while Marty Friedman's finger or Marty Friedman's tape are quite elegant solutions to the problem, you might not always have a spare person to hand or some tape. So there is something you probably always have with you that you can use. This is Guthrie Govan's sock. Aye, so provided you wear a sock, this is a pretty accessible but potentially smelly solution. Can't say that's a sentence I ever thought would come out of my mouth, but here we are. Most niche indeed. But yeah, rather than dwelling with tape or having someone lurk over and finger your guitar, just tie a sock around the neck. Not too tight, not too loose, you know, just a standard 1 silver knot like that. Put the knot on the back, flat side here. This is probably my go-to for extreme muting tricks. A t-shirt, flannel, or any other bit of material can work as well. I was very skeptical about the sock when it first popped up in Guthrie's book as a suggestion, but to his credit, he persevered with the idea and won me over. A lifetime convert here. Cheers, Mr. Govan. So just as kind of proof of concept, we've moved this here and I just go up a scale. Hopefully you can see I wasn't employing any of the muting techniques there, and as soon as I stopped this note, it was dead. There was no ringing out vibrations. Just to prove this, if I take the sock off, you get the strings ringing out in sympathy. And if you want to combine the highly effective muting tools of the finger, the tape, or the sock, but with something that's a bit more accessible like a hairband, and you want it to look a bit more professional, you could go down the route that Micheal Angelo Batio has, which is using these special mutings you could flip around from the top. So I don't personally have any of these, so I'll just bring up a little picture and hopefully that'll suffice. Those were some really useful and perhaps some slightly more novelty muting ideas. This has been Quick Guitar Tricks, that's the playlist there. For more on right hand muting and left hand tapping, check out this video. But yeah, if you've enjoyed this and want to stay up to date with new content, hit subscribe, click like, that seems to really help the channel out. Share on social media, leave me a comment and enable notifications by clicking that little bell on the side if you feel so inclined. Cheers guys.